The film opens and we see a Colombian cartel boss swimming inside his heavily guarded mansion. As he dives down, someone appears from the depths of the pool and begins to strangle him. The drug boss struggles and is eventually killed, and the assassin moves his arms to make it look like he is still swimming. The man then escapes and the guards are shocked and think their boss has drowned in the pool. We then meet the skilled assassin whose name is Bishop. He disguises himself as a chef and walks right out of the house. Bishop reaches a bridge and dives over the edge, then hangs onto a small boat and escapes. Back in Louisiana, Bishop enters his house and we see a secret room filled with all his assassination targets. He says he is skilled at what he does and no one ever knows he was there. Later, he meets up with his friend and mentor, Harry, who is disabled. They catch up and Harry talks about his son Steve, who he states is a disappointment. The next day, Bishop checks his jobs and is shocked to see he's been assigned to kill Harry. He calls his boss Dean and requests an in-person meeting. The two talk and Dean tells him about a failed mission in South Africa where 7 of his assassins were killed. He states only him and Harry knew about this mission, so he thinks Harry sold them out. Dean then shows them bank statements where he received a mysterious payment of $20 million. Bishop is hesitant but states he'll get the job done. Before he proceeds with the hit, he researches the failed mission in South Africa and thinks it looks somewhat suspicious. He then calls Harry and tells him to get out of the building because Dean is coming for him. Harry grabs a gun and follows Bishop's directions, which lead him to the parking garage. He reaches a van but Bishop appears and Harry can only laugh as he knows what's coming. Harry gives him his own gun because he'd rather die from Bishop than someone they would send next. Bishop then shoots and kills Harry and frames the death as a carjacking gone wrong. Days later, Bishop visits his grave. He runs into Harry's son, Steve, who doesn't know Bishop killed his father. Later, Steve returns and asks Bishop to train him as a hitman because he wants to be like Harry. He initially declines but decides he will do it. He invites him to stay in his house but warns him to never touch the record player. Bishop then takes Steve to a shelter and has him pick out a dog. For weeks, Steve walks it to a coffee shop to get close to an upcoming target. Meanwhile, Bishop teaches him how to fire weapons and frame assassinations as accidents. Some time passes and Bishop takes Steve to a hit where he strangles a man. Bishop explains he was a bad guy and Steve is eager to carry out his job. He is instructed to kill a man from the coffee shop who is a rival hitman. At the shop, the man asks Steve if he wants to go out because he is into men. Steve plays along and Bishop shows him how to sneak drugs into his drink for when they go. At the bar, the target gets up to grab Steve another drink. Steve contemplates spiking his drink but decides he wants to strangle him like a true hitman. Despite earlier warnings from Bishop, Steve goes back with him to his house. The man advances on him and Steve begins to choke him using a belt. The man is much bigger and puts up a fight, but Steve eventually gets the upper hand and kills him. Back at the house, Bishop scolds him for not making it clean. Some time passes and Bishop is assigned another job to kill a cult leader named Andrew. The duo studies the file and plan to use a shot of adrenaline. They set up hidden cameras and spy on him for a few days. When the moment comes, they scale the roof and venture into the vents. Bishop and Steve break into the penthouse, but discover he is taking ketamine, which counteracts adrenaline. So, they choke him out instead and leave before guards enter. However, the guards hear them and a gunfight breaks out. The pair is chased but swiftly eliminate all the guards and escape in the chaos of the lobby. When Bishop is at the airport to fly home, he notices someone familiar. It is the assassin who Dean claimed was dead in the mission Harry supposedly sold out. He confronts him and the man reveals Dean planned the whole thing. Dean thought Harry was getting suspicious about a blown operation and had to be taken care of. Bishop becomes upset that he was played and forced to kill his good friend. He attacks the assassin and the two fight until Bishop ultimately kills him. Later, Bishop is ambushed by a bunch of Dean's henchmen. They pull up and begin searching for him on a dock. He hides in the water, then jumps out and spears one, then steals his gun. He subsequently takes out the other two, then calls Dean and says he is coming for him. Bishop then calls Steve, who is being held at gunpoint at the house. He sneakily tells him there is a gun hidden in the couch cushions. Steve slowly grabs it, then springs into action to kill his 4 captors in a quick manner. The two then load up supplies, and Steve discovers his father's gun hidden in the shelves. He stares at it, then puts the pieces together to realize Bishop killed his dad. He does not say anything though, and the two depart in a truck. While they drive, Steve coldly asks if he ever thinks about the people he has killed, and Bishop replies saying no. The two then stop at another hitman's house and interrogate him for Dean's location. Bishop threatens his daughter and he eventually reveals the location. When they arrive at the building, Bishop calls Dean, who offers him $10 million to forget about it all. Bishop declines and warns him it is too late for him. Dean is then escorted out of the building surrounded by armored cars. Meanwhile, Steve carjacks a large bus and forces everyone off. Bishop then slams into one of the cars and opens fire on Dean's men, killing most of them. Dean escapes, but Steve stops them using the bus and opens fire. With all the guards defeated, Bishop uses a garbage truck to lift Dean's vehicle into the air. He flips it over and the two open fire to finish Dean off for good. After the mission, the two drive home and plan to disappear with new names and occupations. They joke around together, then Steve reaches into the backseat to grab some water. When he does this, Bishop notices Harry's gun hidden in his shirt but says nothing. He continues driving with a stern look and they eventually reach a gas station. Steve gets out and pretends to pump gas, but he really floods the ground with gasoline. Bishop watches him go inside, but Steve turns and shoots the car, which creates a massive explosion. He assumes Bishop was killed and returns to the house. He sits on the couch for a bit, then gets into Bishop's prized sports car, which he never drives. However, when Steve departs, it triggers a bomb inside the house, which was a safety measure in case Bishop ever needed to leave in a hurry. Steve then notices a paper in the passenger seat of the car. He picks it up and sees a note that states, "Steve, if you're reading this, then you're dead, signed Bishop." Steve can only laugh and the car is thrown into the air with a huge explosion. All this time, Bishop knew he could not trust Steve and assumed he would betray him at the end. With the house and car now destroyed, we see a shot of Harry's gun which says "Victory loves preparation." We then flash to the gas station where security cameras show Bishop rolling away from the truck before the explosion. As the movie comes to a close, Bishop gets into another truck and drives into the sunset.